Just like fire, burning up the way.
So we touched in on this a little bit. We kind of dipped our toes into the debate waters earlier this week after Cameron Diaz told Molly Sims on her podcast that we need to normalize married couples having separate bedrooms. There's the headline from the story. Our next guest kind of agrees with us, and she's the expert. Career wellness coach and author Elizabeth Pearson joins us now to talk more about this. It's good to see you this morning. So this is your platform now. What is it? What part of this, I guess, do you agree with?
I agree with all of it, Steve. It's something that my husband and I, who've been blissfully married for 16 years, embraced about 8 years ago. And I just think sleep is so important in this country. It's important to our physical health. It's important to our professional health. It's really kind of the root of a lot of our wellness. And if it's disrupted, it's going to be a problem in the rest of your life.
So, Elizabeth, as we chat here, feel free to either share your personal experiences or what you've heard from others, because I know you've talked to a lot of people about this. But when it comes to what is causing us to, and we'll go with those who agree with this argument for now, what causes us to not get that good night's sleep? Like, how is your sleep better alone versus with your partner?
Steve, it's night and day. I think, my partner was a snorer. He had what I call the Jimmy legs. I also snored. There were all of these things that were keeping us up. He wanted to come to bed later, then I wanted to go to bed. I wake up at 5:30 to work out. He likes to sleep in. So there just wasn't a lot of connection happening at bed anyway, because by the time he came in, I was annoyed that he was coming to bed at 10:30 and I'd been asleep for an hour and he was waking me up. So we just decided, we're going to try this and see what some of the benefits are. And what's wonderful, Steve, is that we actually have 2 separate bedrooms. We actually built him a separate primary suite, a secondary one, and we wake up in the morning refreshed and happy to see each other and give each other a big hug and ask how our night's sleep was.
So I think we've all been in that situation one way or another as to what you're talking about as far as going to bed at different times, working different shifts, somebody snores, whatever that is. But there are a lot of people that say, listen, if you're married, you really should be together, whether it be for intimacy reasons or whatever it is. A lot of people might be in fear of this driving them apart. Clearly, if you're going to go separate bedrooms, you have to be on the same page. Let's start with that. Does one person make this decision? How do you address this with the other partner to make sure that everybody agrees?
Yeah, I think one person typically is going to be the one who brings up the idea and says, hey, maybe we should try this. And that's what happened in my marriage. We were traveling a lot and we noticed that we slept so great in hotel rooms. And then we came back, and when we slept in the same bed, we had a rough night of sleep. So I said to my husband, I said, hey, why don't you just sleep in the guest room tonight? We were kind of doing that. If I had to get up for an early flight anyway, he would go sleep in the guest room. And then we started to figure out, like, he loved it too. It was kind of something I thought I was driving. But then I would ask him, like, hey, you want to sleep in the main room tonight? And he'd be like, no, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm going to stay in the guest room, because he slept so well. So I think sometimes one person has to kind of open the door. But definitely, if you're going to make it more of a permanent situation, you absolutely have to be on the same page and have a conversation, and you both have to be comfortable with the agreement.
So for those who might bring up the argument and say, well, I don't know, if we're sleeping apart, that's the gateway to a separation right here. Or what about the intimacy factor that we typically find when we're sharing the same bed? What's the response or the argument there?
Oh, Steve, I've heard that so much, right? It's a slippery slide to divorce, like you're on the road to divorce. So many movies even reference it too, like, oh, they're not sleeping in the same room, there must be trouble. And I just think that's kind of an antiquated way to think about it, because I don't know about other people, but for me, when I went to bed at night, I was exhausted. I'm a mom, I've got a demanding job. So that wasn't the time we were going to be intimate anyway. If anything, it was the opposite of the time. So we had found ourselves kind of scheduling intimacy or embracing spontaneity, right? If we're both working from home or something, there could be an opportunity that presents itself, but it wasn't happening at night anyway. So I think really look at, like, your patterns. And if that is a time where you really love the pillow talk, because that's intimacy as well, right? There's different forms of it. Then I think that you have to create another opportunity to have that pillow talk or have that other physical intimacy somewhere else in your day.
So last thing for you, Elizabeth, before I let you go, you did say that you guys are blissfully married and the relationship is just blooming, even though you don't sleep in the same bed. Where do you make up for that? I mean, do you schedule extra, like, time together aside from sleeping, or, like, how do you find that balance to make sure that you guys still have that fire burning?
We do. I think it's like any relationship, though, Steve, right? Like you have to pay attention to it. The grass is green where you water it. I think, we have weekly date nights, which I think all marriages should have. Like, I think you treat it like a normal relationship because really what we're talking about is just, 8 to 10 hours a day where you're unconscious. So I think it's those other conscious hours where you actually have to spend the time on the relationship. So it almost feels like a non issue for us. I will say the pillow talk, like maybe the evening debrief when you're laying there and you're kind of sharing your feelings, we make time to do that after dinner. So we'll have dinner as a family, and then we will have our daughters go into their playroom or do their homework, and then we will sit at the table probably for almost an hour each night, and we'll have that debrief then.
Takes a little bit of work, but in the end, it's what works best for you and your significant other and your spouse. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I wish you and your husband and your whole family the absolute best. Have a great holiday, Merry Christmas and all that. Good night's sleep all around. Career wellness coach and author Elizabeth Pearson joining us this morning.